It was a typical bustling day at the Galactic Academy for Interspecies Learning, a place where students from all reaches of the known galaxy converged. The hallways buzzed with a cacophony of sounds, chattering, chirping, clicking, and humming, as students excitedly prepared for the highly anticipated Bring Your Companion Creature to School Day. Rock, a towering student whose scales shimmered beneath the artificial light, strutted proudly alongside his companion, a massive, multi-legged being that pulsed with bioluminescent flashes. Nearby, Yarlan, a student covered in a fur-like coat, guided a floating, jellyfish-esque companion that shifted colors with every graceful movement. The air crackled with anticipation as everyone eagerly awaited the chance to showcase their unique pets. At the entrance, a human student named Travis Callum wrestled with the leash of his companion, a spirited canine named Baxter. Compared to the other creatures, Baxter appeared comically ordinary amongst the exotic and imposing companions that dwarfed him. However, in Travis' eyes, Baxter was the ideal pet. "Ready, boy? Let's show them what we're made of," Travis murmured, giving his furry friend an affectionate pat on the head. As Travis and Baxter stepped through the academy gates, the reactions were immediate and noticeable. Eyes, some with pupils, some without, and some with far too many, widened in surprise. Head swiveled, and antennae twitched in bewilderment. Baxter, completely oblivious to the attention, wagged his tail enthusiastically and sniffed the air with unrestrained joy. Hark, a beetle-like student whose carapace clicked with every movement, observed Baxter with a mixture of fascination and barely concealed apprehension. "What asterisk is asterisk that?" he muttered, his mandibles clacking in disbelief. Travis offered a polite smile. "This is Baxter. He's a dog, from Earth. Harmless, really." Harmless, however, wasn't the word on the minds of the other students as Baxter's tail wagged with increasing fervor. Some of the more apprehensive species instinctively recoiled. The sight of an animal moving its appendage so rapidly was unsettling to many, particularly those hailing from predator-prey societies. "Why is it doing that?" whispered Glenka, a feathered student perched nervously on a nearby bench. "Is it a threat display?" Before Travis could offer an explanation, Baxter caught sight of another student's companion, a glowing, floating orb-like creature. Excited, he lunged forward with a bark, triggering a wave of panic among the nearby students. "It speaks," shrieked Cullen, whose gelatinous body quivered as he attempted to retreat from the barking menace. Baxter, blissfully unaware of the chaos he was causing, continued to wag his tail and sniff the air, now completely engrossed in trying to reach the floating orb that had drifted just out of reach. Travis sighed. "Come on, guys, he's just excited. He's not dangerous." He tugged on the leash, but Baxter, captivated by the novel sights and smells, paid no heed. With a sudden burst of energy, Baxter darted toward a group of students, tongue lolling and tail wagging, a furry projectile of pure exuberance. This time, the pandemonium truly began. As Baxter launched himself into the midst of the alien students, the reactions were instant and dramatic. Hark, despite his bulky frame, scurried behind a pillar with astonishing speed. Glenka, still perched on the bench, puffed up her feathers in alarm as the dog zipped past. The sight of Baxter's floppy ears bouncing with each joyful leap widened her eyes in disbelief. "It's charging," she squawked, her wings fluttering nervously. For Travis, it was a familiar scene. Baxter, as harmless as he was, had a knack for creating mayhem wherever he went, especially in environments ill-prepared for his unique brand of enthusiasm. The dog's barking, playful leaps, and unpredictable sprints made him seem less like a companion and more like a whirlwind of energy. Baxter's next target was Varen, a student with long, shimmering tendrils that floated gently around him. As the dog approached, Varen recoiled, unsure if the strange earth creature was about to attack. "What is it doing?" Varen murmured, his voice a soft hum, his eyes wide with apprehension. Baxter ran straight towards his floating tendrils. "He's just sniffing," Travis called out, his voice trailing off as he saw the wave of confusion spread through the crowd. Baxter, ever curious, had caught the scent of Varen's tendrils and decided to investigate, nose first. Varen's tendrils twitched, retracting reflexively. "Is it tracking me?" he asked, his voice tight with anxiety. In his culture, sniffing was the first step of a predatory pursuit, and the fact that this dog had his face so close was, to say the least, disconcerting. "It's not hunting you," Travis chuckled nervously, tugging on Baxter's leash. But the dog was now fully absorbed in his investigation. As Travis and Baxter navigated the academy gates, the reactions were immediate and striking. Eyes of all shapes and sizes, some with pupils, some without, and some with an unnerving abundance, widened in astonishment. Head swiveled, and antennae twitched with bewilderment. Baxter, oblivious to the attention, wagged his tail enthusiastically and inhaled the unfamiliar scents with pure delight. Hark, a beetle-like student whose carapace clicked with each movement, watched Baxter with a blend of fascination and thinly disguised apprehension. "What asterisk is asterisk that thing?" he mumbled, mandibles clacking in disbelief. Travis offered a reassuring smile. "This is Baxter. He's a canine, from Earth. Completely harmless." Harmless, however, was not the impression Baxter was making as his tail wagged with increasing vigor. Some of the more timid species instinctively recoiled. The sight of an animal with such a rapidly moving appendage was disconcerting to many, especially those from worlds with a strong predator-prey dynamic. "What's it doing?" whispered Glenka, a feathered student perched nervously on a nearby bench. "Is that some kind of aggressive posture?" Before Travis could respond, Baxter spotted another student's companion, a luminous, floating orb. Overjoyed, he lunged forward with a bark, sparking widespread panic. "It vocalizes," shrieked Cullen, whose gelatinous form trembled as he tried to escape the barking threat. Baxter, blissfully unaware of the pandemonium he was causing, continued to wag his tail and explore the new environment, now fixated on reaching the floating orb that hovered just out of his reach. Travis sighed. "Come on, everyone, he's just happy. He's not a threat." He pulled on the leash, but Baxter, captivated by the unusual sights and smells, ignored him. With a sudden burst of energy, Baxter darted toward a cluster of students, tongue lolling and tail wagging, a furry embodiment of pure excitement. This marked the true beginning of the chaos. As Baxter propelled himself into the midst of the alien students, their reactions were instantaneous and extreme. Hark, despite his substantial frame, scrambled behind a pillar with surprising agility. Glenka, still perched on the bench, ruffled her feathers in alarm as the dog zipped past. The sight of Baxter's floppy ears bouncing with every joyful leap widened her eyes in disbelief. "It's attacking," she squawked, her wings fluttering nervously. For Travis, this was a common occurrence. Baxter, despite his gentle nature, possessed a remarkable talent for causing mayhem, particularly in settings unprepared for his unique brand of exuberance. The dog's barking, playful bounds, and unpredictable dashes made him resemble less a companion and more a force of nature. Baxter's next focus was Veron, a student with long, shimmering tendrils that drifted around him. As the dog approached, Veron flinched, uncertain if the unfamiliar earth creature intended to harm him. "What's it doing?" Veron murmured, his voice a gentle hum, his eyes wide with apprehension. Baxter ran directly towards the floating tendrils. "He's just investigating," Travis called out, his voice fading as he observed the wave of bewilderment spreading through the crowd. Baxter, ever inquisitive, had caught the scent of Veron's tendrils and decided to explore them, nose first. Veron's tendrils twitched, retracting instinctively. "Is it following me?" he asked, his voice strained with anxiety. In his culture, sniffing was the initial stage of a hunt, and the dog's proximity was deeply unsettling. "He's not going to hurt you," Travis chuckled nervously, tugging on Baxter's leash. But the dog was completely engrossed in his sensory exploration. As Baxter sniffed and then sneezed, a loud, sudden expulsion of air, Veron emitted a high-pitched hum of alarm. "It's marking its territory. It will consume us next." Cullen wailed, his gelatinous body rippling with each word. Travis struggled to suppress a laugh. To humans, Baxter was just being a dog. But to the alien students, everything about him was utterly terrifying. As Baxter propelled himself into the heart of the alien student gathering, the reactions were instantaneous and dramatic. Hark, despite his considerable size, scrambled behind a pillar with remarkable speed. Glenka, perched on the bench, puffed up her feathers in alarm as the canine whizzed by. The sight of Baxter's floppy ears bouncing with each leap caused her eyes to widen in astonishment. "It's attacking," she shrieked, her wings beating anxiously. For Travis, this was a familiar scenario. Baxter, harmless as he might be, possessed a singular talent for generating pandemonium, particularly in places ill-suited for his particular brand of spirited enthusiasm. The dog's barking, playful jumps, and erratic sprints made him seem less like a pet and more like a chaotic force of nature. Baxter's next point of interest was Veren, a student with long, shimmering tendrils that drifted gracefully around him. As the dog bounded closer, Veren recoiled, uncertain of the strange earth creature's intentions. "What is this thing doing?" Veren murmured, his voice a soft, humming sound, his eyes wide with apprehension. Baxter ran directly toward his floating appendages. "He's just curious," Travis called out, his voice fading as he observed the wave of confusion rippling through the onlookers. Baxter, ever the inquisitive one, had detected the scent of Veren's tendrils and decided to investigate, nose first. Veren's tendrils twitched, retracting instinctively. "Is it tracking my movements?" he inquired, his voice tight with anxiety. In Veren's culture, sniffing was the initial step in a predator's hunt, and the dog's proximity was profoundly unnerving. "He's just being friendly," Travis chuckled nervously, tugging gently on Baxter's leash. But the dog was now completely captivated by his sensory exploration. As Baxter sniffed, then sneezed, a loud, sudden expulsion of air, Veren emitted a high-pitched hum of alarm. "It's marking its territory. We're next." Cullen wailed, his gelatinous body undulating with every word. Travis struggled to suppress a laugh. To humans, Baxter was simply being a dog. But to the alien students, his every action was utterly terrifying. In the midst of the growing commotion, Baxter's attention was drawn to a new object of fascination, a shimmering, iridescent sphere that another student had brought for their own companion, a gentle, floating creature resembling a cross between a jellyfish and a kite. The sphere, designed to hover, captured Baxter's attention like nothing else. Without warning, he darted towards it, barking excitedly as he leaped to catch the floating object. "No," cried Filling, the jellyfish-like alien whose companion's toy was now Baxter's target. The sight of Baxter lunging toward the treasured object sent Filling into a panic. To his species, floating objects held sacred significance, representing peace, not something to be bitten. Baxter, of course, was completely oblivious to such symbolic meaning. With a single, triumphant leap, he snatched the sphere mid-air, causing it to partially deflate with a loud pop. The sound echoed through the hall, followed by an abrupt silence. The alien students froze, their various limbs, appendages, and feelers tense. Was this the moment the Earth creature would finally attack? Baxter stood proudly, tail wagging even more furiously, sphere firmly clamped in his jaws. He looked around expectantly, as if waiting for someone to throw it again. The silence was finally broken by Glenka's terrified squawk. "It deflates its prey before consuming it." As Baxter, bull firmly clamped in his jaws, stood proudly awaiting another throw, the tension in the hall thickened. The alien students exchanged nervous glances, trying to decipher the Earth creature's next move. From their perspective, Baxter had just successfully hunted and subdued a floating object, a feat none of their own companions would attempt. It was simultaneously impressive and terrifying. Filling, still reeling from the shock of his companion's toy's deflation, cautiously approached Travis. Does the creature require more prey?" he inquired, his gelatinous form shimmering with a blend of fear and respect. Travis, fighting back laughter, knelt down and patted Baxter. No, he's good. He just likes to play fetch." He tried to retrieve the ball, but Baxter, playful as ever, tugged back, initiating a tug-of-war. To the alien students, this looked like a dominant struggle. Rock, whose massive companion hovered nearby, stepped forward. "It competes with its handler for dominance," he rumbled, causing the other students to recoil slightly. Not really," Travis replied, finally wresting the ball free. He tossed it across the room, hoping to give Baxter a distraction that wouldn't trigger another intergalactic incident. This, however, proved to be yet another miscalculation. As Baxter tore after the ball, several alien students gasped. His speed and agility seemed almost unnatural to them. Glenka, eyes wide with apprehension, puffed up her feathers. "It moves with the swiftness of a black sand predator," she exclaimed. Before Travis could explain that Baxter was simply playing, Varen, who had been observing from the sidelines, raised one of his shimmering tendrils. "If this Baxter is so capable," he hummed, "perhaps we should evaluate its abilities against our own companions." A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembled students. Despite their fear, they were also intrigued. Could this seemingly ordinary Earth creature truly be a match for their highly evolved companions? "Wait, what? Test him?" Travis asked, genuinely concerned now. "He's not here for a competition, he's just a pet." "All companion creatures are assessed," Rock declared proudly, standing tall beside his bioluminescent, multi-legged companion. "It is Academy tradition. Strength, speed, intelligence, the Earth creature must be evaluated." The crowd nodded in agreement. Travis looked at Baxter, who was panting happily, oblivious to the escalating situation. "He's just a regular dog," Travis repeated, but he could see from the determined expressions around him that there was no turning back. A circular arena shimmered into existence in the center of the hall. Alien students gathered around, murmuring excitedly as their companions lined up, ready to face off against the Earth K9. First, Varen announced, the test of agility. Each creature must retrieve a target and return it to its owner. The fastest wins. Travis blinked. "You mean, like fetch?" Varen tilted his head, tendrils shimmering in confusion. "If that is the Earth term, then yes." Travis looked at Baxter, tail wagging excitedly. "All right, boy," he murmured, "I guess we're doing this." The floating jellyfish creature went first, gracefully retrieving the glowing orb. The crowd murmured in approval. Next was Rock's multi-legged companion, which scurried across the arena in a blur of limbs and flashing lights. The audience cheered. Then it was Baxter's turn. Travis tossed the deflated ball, and before it even hit the ground, Baxter was off like a shot, returning in mere seconds with the ball firmly in his jaws. The alien students were speechless. "It moves like lightning," Glenka exclaimed in awe. "The creature is unstoppable," added Kulin, his gelatinous form rippling with surprise. Travis chuckled as Baxter dropped the ball at his feet. "He's just getting started," he muttered with a grin. The stunned silence following Baxter's agility performance only amplified the tension. Varen floated forward, tendrils glowing with renewed purpose. "Next," he announced, his voice echoing across the arena, "the test of strength." Several alien companions lined up, showcasing impressive physiques. The task was simple: lift a heavy object. Rock's companion lifted the enormous stone pillar with ease, balancing it on its back. The crowd roared its approval. Next, a muscular, tusked quadruped hoisted the pillar with bulging muscles. The audience murmured in awe. Travis raised an eyebrow at Baxter. "Strength, huh? Think you can lift a boulder, boy?" he chuckled, already knowing the answer. When it was Baxter's turn, he approached the smaller, but still hefty, boulder, sniffed it thoroughly, and then, to everyone's horror, lifted his leg and urinated on it. The arena fell silent. The alien student stared in disbelief. Varen's tendrils froze mid-air. It claims the object as its own," Rock whispered, eyes wide. "It's marking its territory. This is a display of power unlike any I've witnessed." Glenka squawked. Kulin, now more fascinated than afraid, rippled with admiration. "It asserts dominance without lifting a single appendage." Travis buried his face in his hands, trying not to laugh. "Oh, for crying out loud," Baxter, tail wagging, remained oblivious to the pandemonium he had caused. With Baxter, ball firmly held in his jaws, standing proudly, the atmosphere in the hall grew thick with anticipation. The alien students exchanged worried looks, attempting to predict the Earth creature's next action. From their vantage point, Baxter had just successfully hunted and captured a floating object, a feat none of their companions would even consider. It was both awe-inspiring and alarming. Filling, still shaken by the deflation of his companion's toy, carefully approached Travis. Does this creature desire more sustenance? He inquired, his gelatinous form shimmering with a blend of fear and reverence. Travis, stifling a laugh, knelt and patted Baxter. No, he's all set. He enjoys retrieving objects. He reached for the ball, but the playful Baxter pulled back, starting a light-hearted tug-of-war. To the alien onlookers, this appeared to be a battle for dominance. Rock, whose enormous companion hovered nearby, stepped forward. It vies for control with its handler, he rumbled, prompting the other students to shrink back slightly. Not really, Travis replied, finally retrieving the ball. He threw it across the room, hoping to divert Baxter's attention towards something less likely to cause another intergalactic incident. This, however, proved to be another miscalculation. As Baxter raced after the ball, several alien students gasped. His speed and agility appeared almost otherworldly. Glenka, eyes wide with apprehension, puffed out her feathers. It possesses the swiftness of a black sand predator, she exclaimed. Before Travis could clarify that Baxter was merely playing, Varen, who had been quietly observing, extended one of his shimmering tendrils. If this Baxter demonstrates such proficiency, he hummed, perhaps an assessment of its abilities against our own companions is warranted. A murmur of agreement rippled through the gathered students. Despite their apprehension, they were also intensely curious. Could this seemingly unremarkable Earth creature truly rival their highly advanced companions? Hold on, what? A test? Travis asked, genuinely worried now. He's not here to compete, he's just my pet. All companion creatures undergo evaluation, Rock stated proudly, standing tall beside his bioluminescent, multi-legged companion. It is an academy custom. Strength, speed, intellect, the Earth creature must be assessed. The assembled students nodded in agreement. Travis glanced at Baxter, who was panting happily, completely oblivious to the rapidly escalating situation. He's just a regular dog, Travis reiterated, but the determined expression surrounding him made it clear that there was no turning back. A circular arena materialized in the center of the hall, shimmering into existence. Alien students gathered around, their voices a low hum of excitement as their companions lined up, poised to face the Earth canine. Firstly, Varen announced, the assessment of agility. Each creature must retrieve a designated target and return it to its owner. The most expeditious will be deemed the victor. Travis blinked. You mean, like fetch? Varen tilted his head, tendrils shimmering with confusion. If that is the Earth terminology, then yes. Travis looked at Baxter, whose tail was wagging furiously. Okay, boy, he whispered, looks like we're doing this. The floating jellyfish creature went first, gracefully retrieving the glowing orb. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Next was Rock's multi-legged companion, which zipped across the arena in a blur of limbs and flashing lights. The audience cheered. Then it was Baxter's turn. Travis threw the deflated ball, and before it even touched the ground, Baxter was off like a rocket, returning in a matter of seconds, ball firmly gripped in his jaws. The alien students were stunned into silence. It moves with the speed of lightning. Glenka exclaimed in amazement. The creature is indomitable, added Cullen, his gelatinous form rippling with astonishment. Travis chuckled as Baxter dropped the ball at his feet. He's just warming up, he murmured with a grin. The astonished silence following Baxter's display of speed only amplified the existing tension. Varen drifted forward, tendrils glowing with renewed determination. Next, he declared, his voice resonating across the arena, the evaluation of strength. A variety of alien companions lined up, each displaying impressive physical attributes. The task was straightforward, lift a heavy object. Rock's companion lifted the massive stone pillar with ease, balancing it effortlessly on its back. The crowd roared with approval. Then, a muscular, tusked quadruped hefted the pillar with straining muscles, eliciting gasps from the audience. Travis looked at Baxter, raising an eyebrow. Strength, who? Think you can lift a boulder, boy, he chuckled, already suspecting the outcome. When it was Baxter's turn, he approached the smaller, but still substantial, boulder, sniffed it carefully, and then, to everyone's utter bewilderment, lifted his leg and urinated on it. A hush fell over the arena. The alien student stared in stunned disbelief. Veron's tendrils froze mid-air. It establishes ownership of the object, Rock whispered, eyes wide. A territorial marking. A display of power unlike anything I've encountered. Glenka squawked. Cullen, now more captivated than scared, vibrated with a strange admiration. It exerts dominance without utilizing a single appendage. Travis buried his face in his hands, fighting back laughter. Oh, for crying out loud, Baxter, tail wagging, remained blissfully unaware of the pandemonium he had created. The stunned silence following Baxter's demonstration of strength only deepened the pervasive sense of bewilderment. Veron drifted closer, tendrils glowing with renewed resolve. Now, he announced, his voice resonating throughout the arena, we shall proceed to the assessment of intellect. Several of the alien companions positioned themselves for the task, each displaying impressive signs of cognitive ability. The challenge was straightforward: solve a puzzle. Rock's companion effortlessly manipulated a complex series of levers and buttons, retrieving a hidden treat with remarkable speed and precision. The crowd erupted in enthusiastic applause. Next, Filling's floating, jellyfish-like companion delicately navigated the puzzle with its tendrils, extracting the treat with surprising dexterity. Again, the audience murmured their approval. Travis glanced at Baxter, who seemed far more interested in the treat itself than the puzzle. Okay, buddy, he said, let's see what you can do. Before Travis could even explain the task, Baxter marched straight up to the puzzle and, without hesitation, began chewing on it. The aliens gasped. It's consuming the challenge. Glenka shrieked, feathers ruffling in alarm. Rock's eyes widened. It devours obstacles, he exclaimed, awestruck. Travis shook his head, suppressing a laugh. Baxter, no, that's not how it works, but before he could intervene, Baxter had knocked the puzzle over with a paw, dislodging the treat, which he promptly devoured. Veron floated forward, tendrils twitching in disbelief. It circumvents complexity through sheer force, he whispered, as if witnessing a profound display of alien logic. Travis sighed, scratching Baxter behind the ears. Yeah, something like that. The alien students exchanged hushed whispers, their expressions a mixture of awe and bafflement. Baxter, in their eyes, had conquered every challenge, though in ways that completely defied their comprehension of the universe. The crowd had shifted from cautious apprehension to complete fascination with Baxter's every move. Each action, no matter how ordinary by human standards, was interpreted as a remarkable display of power, strategy, or dominance. Travis, meanwhile, struggled to contain his amusement as he watched his goofy dog unintentionally captivate the entire academy. Veron, still reeling from the intelligence test, returned to the center of the arena, his glowing tendrils flickering with uncertainty. The Earth creature, he declared, as if trying to convince himself, has completed the trials in its own, singular manner. It is evident that the human companion is. Before Veron could finish, a sudden commotion erupted at the far end of the arena. A deep, guttural growl echoed through the hall, causing the students to gasp in alarm. All eyes turned towards the source of the noise, a large, heavily built alien companion with sharp, spiky armor. It had broken free from its handler and was now advancing towards the crowd, clearly agitated. Hark! Control your companion! Filling shouted, his voice trembling with fear. But Hark, the beetle-like student who owned the creature, was struggling to restrain it. It's not responding, he cried, mandibles clicking in panic. It's gone berserk. The creature, twice the size of Baxter and covered in thick, armored plates, roared again and charged forward. Alien students scrambled to get out of its way, and for a moment, chaos reigned in the arena. Travis froze. Oh, great! Now what? He muttered, instinctively tightening his grip on Baxter's leash. But before he could react, Baxter, who had been lying calmly at Travis's feet, suddenly perked up. His eyes locked onto the rampaging creature, and without hesitation, he bolted. Baxter, no! Travis yelled, but it was too late. The alien students gasped. "It's challenging the beast!" Glenka shrieked, flapping her wings in panic. Veron's tendrils flared with nervous energy. "The Earth creature is fearless." As Baxter closed the distance, barking excitedly, the massive alien creature stopped in its tracks. Its eyes, previously filled with rage, now flickered with uncertainty. It hadn't expected to be confronted so directly, certainly not by something so much smaller than itself, and so enthusiastic. Baxter skidded to a halt inches from the creature's towering legs and, in typical canine fashion, immediately began circling it, sniffing curiously as if this spiky monstrosity were nothing more than a tree or a fire hydrant. He barked once, twice, and then, just as everyone held their breath, he sat down, tongue lolling out, staring up at the hulking beast as if waiting for it to throw a ball. The massive creature hesitated, its gaze fixed on the small, cheerful dog sitting at its feet. A flicker of confusion crossed its features. The primal fury that had propelled it into a rampage seemed to dissipate, replaced by a wave of uncertainty. Baxter, tail wagging furiously, nudged the creature playfully with his nose. Then, miraculously, the hulking beast emitted a low grunt and settled down onto the floor. The assembled alien students erupted in a chorus of gasps and murmurs. "By the stars!" Filling whispered, his gelatinous body quivering. It has pacified the beast." Cullen, rippling with astonishment, could barely contain his excitement. "The Earth creature's methods are beyond comprehension. It displays no aggression, no fear, only an overwhelming dominance achieved through amicable interaction." Travis, who had watched the entire episode unfold with a mixture of apprehension and disbelief, walked over to where Baxter now sat contentedly beside the previously enraged creature. "Baxter, buddy," he murmured, shaking his head, "what did you do?" The massive creature, now completely tranquil, let out a low, rumbling growl and lay down beside Baxter, who promptly rolled onto his back, inviting a belly rub as if the two were lifelong companions. Veron drifted forward, his voice filled with awe. "This Earth creature," he began, his tendrils pulsing with newfound understanding, "it subdues the most savage of beasts without resorting to force. It employs techniques beyond our current grasp." The crowd of students, still reeling from the spectacle, began to murmur in agreement. The whispers grew louder, a wave of bewildered admiration washing over them. How could something so small, so seemingly unremarkable, wield such influence? Travis chuckled, appreciating the sheer absurdity of the situation. "Yeah, I guess that's Baxter for you," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. "He's not much for confrontation, but he sure knows how to make friends." Veron dipped his head in a gesture of profound respect, a cultural sign of deep admiration. "The Earth creature's abilities are truly exceptional," he declared. "We have much to learn from its approach." His tendrils pulsed with acknowledgement, and the other students followed suit, nodding, chirping, and humming their agreement. As Travis and Baxter departed the arena, a chorus of awestruck whispers trailed behind them. In the eyes of the alien students, Baxter had transformed from a simple pet into a creature of profound mystery, an enigma who had pacified their most formidable companion with nothing more than playful curiosity and an innate friendliness. Travis couldn't help but smile to himself as he scratched Baxter behind the ears. "Come on, boy," he said, "I think we've made quite enough of an impression for one day." As they walked away, the alien students remained in a state of stunned silence, their understanding of power and danger forever altered. After all, who could have predicted that the most disarmingly charming creature at the Galactic Academy would be the one who simply wanted to play fetch? The bring your companion creature to school day had certainly taken an unexpected turn, leaving a lasting impression on all who witnessed the extraordinary abilities of an ordinary Earth dog named Baxter. The day, initially filled with anticipation for showcasing exotic companions, had culminated in a profound lesson about the unexpected power of simple friendliness and the universal language of play. The legend of Baxter, the Earth creature who tamed a beast with a wagging tail and a playful sniff, would undoubtedly be recounted in the halls of the Galactic Academy for generations to come.